On the streets of an American city, what looks a lot like a war. This is the fight against a drug now sweeping the country.
We have no drug problem that's ever had the body count behind it, the deaths related to it, as what we're seeing with the fentanyl product.
Those deaths, all ages, all races, rich and poor.
Just the tiniest drop of it killed him.
It's become an epidemic the authorities can't control.
You're definitely playing Russian roulette with your life.
Welcome to the reality of America's deadly addiction.
Don't move.
We're in a supermarket car park in Phoenix in Arizona.
Okay guys, so looks like we're about to have some action here, so I'm going to kill the engine.
Watch the dark pickup truck on the right-hand side, moving in.
See how they're blocking them in?
Yes, sir. Two vehicles south of the job vehicle.
Seconds later,
So we've got two in custody right now.
the SWAT team has arrested two men in a car. They thought they were coming to sell drugs. In fact, the buyer they'd been talking to was an agent from the US Drug Enforcement Administration. The SWAT team takes no chances.
Okay, car's clear.
The agents are targeting fentanyl, the synthetic opioid that last year killed 31,000 people in America. In the car, in a bag wrapped to look like burritos, thousands of deadly pills. There was also a loaded and cocked handgun.
They have the dope that we wanted, which is 10,000 fentanyl tablets. You're looking at 20 bucks, 25 bucks a pill. So you're looking at several $100,000 worth of pills and lethality, right? I mean, that 10,000 of those pills, if those are all 2 milligram pills, you're talking about the potential to kill 10,000 people.
When they opened those wrappers, this is what they found. Fentanyl disguised as regular painkillers. Either like this or as powder, cartels in Mexico are flooding America with the drug.
There's no way to tell if one of these has 2 milligrams of fentanyl in it or if it has 5 milligrams of fentanyl in it. 2, you might survive. 5, you definitely won't. So anytime somebody takes these illicit ones, you're definitely playing Russian roulette with your life.
Legitimate fentanyl was designed for use in hospitals, but 50 times more powerful than heroin, it's attracted those chasing a new high.
We have no drug problem that's ever had the body count behind it, the deaths related to it, as what we're seeing with the fentanyl product. The fentanyl and the opiate problem that we have here, it's hitting everybody. It hits every class, it hits every race, it hits every socioeconomic demographic, it hits everything. We've developed an entire generation of people that are addicted to opiate prescriptions, oxycodone, hydrocodone, things like that. And what that's led to is an increase in heroin addiction and subsequently an increase in the fentanyl product. Opiate addicts will always continue to chase that first high. So once they get addicted to these drugs, they're always going to be looking for a more powerful substance to get them back to that first high, how they first felt when they took them. Sometimes that's a switch to heroin, and now what we've seen in the last 3 or 4 years, it's a switch to a drug called fentanyl.
The SWAT team has moved on to the home of one of the men they arrested. A man inside what they call the stash house is taken away. There's also a woman and 2 young children inside. It is a detached house in a quiet residential cul-de-sac. In it, police find a stack of assault weapons and more fentanyl. Well, some of this fentanyl undoubtedly ends up on the streets of Phoenix. Most of it is destined elsewhere. This is a major hub on the route from the cartels in Mexico to the big cities of Detroit and Chicago and St. Louis. We are standing on the supply line right into the heart of America's opioid crisis. It's 1,500 miles from Phoenix to St. Louis, where the marketplace is vast and growing, and where fentanyl has taken a deadly hold.
He was the most kind, the most loving, so full of love. But he was a heroin addict.
Eli Randall was in recovery from his addiction when his mother found him dead in his bedroom in May. A relapse, what he thought was heroin, was far more powerful fentanyl.
Through his worst times, I cannot tell you how many times I had to go up those steps to his bedroom that I could hardly put one foot in front of the other because I was terrified of what I would find. There was times he was in such bad shape. And so anytime he didn't wake up or he didn't show up or he didn't come down, you just You couldn't hardly bear to go up there for what you might find. And that morning, I bounced up the steps and never, ever, ever occurred to me what I would find. Just the tiniest drop of it killed him. He had no clue what he had, and he had no intention of leaving us. And I'll never be able to say I have everything ever again, because there's a place that will just be empty forever. On November 18th, 2018, he tweeted a post that said, "Someday my story will inspire someone else to do better for themselves." So that is what myself and my family are trying to do, is help someone else do better for themselves.
At this outreach center in St. Louis, they stock the medication called Narcan. It reverses the effects of an opioid overdose. Only about 1 in 7 overdoses are fatal. The rest survive. But the users who come here say they regularly see people die. The lure of fentanyl's high is just too strong.
I don't think it's ever going to stop. I wish it could and would, but I don't see that happening. It's too big. It's everywhere.
The outreach center is run by recovering addicts. They say the solutions to America's opioid epidemic lies with a change of government attitude.
We have to systematically do things different. We have to look at other countries that have reversed epidemics. None of those countries use the tactics we're talking about in the States. They decriminalized, they created more access to treatment, they opened safe injection sites. They did the opposite of what our government right now is proposing.
We as Americans are willing to spend $44,000 to lock somebody up this year, right? For 1 year. But we're not willing to take $10,000 of that invested up front on getting them treatment on what is really driving the addiction.
Not surprisingly then, they're dismissive of a new White House plan to tackle the trafficking of fentanyl. And those on the front line are seeing a surge in the drug coming across the border. The DEA and Border Protection officers say seizures are on the rise. The drug, often mixed in makeshift labs run by the cartels in Mexico, replacing shipments from China as the major source of fentanyl. Stopping it all, they say, is almost impossible.
As long as American citizens still want these products, they'll always find a way to get it in here. But you're talking about a substance that's so powerful that a kilogram of it, 1 kilo, 2 pounds, 2.2 pounds, you can potentially make 500,000 pills out of that, which could potentially kill 250 or 300,000 Americans. So you're talking about really small amounts of stuff that come across, and it's very difficult to detect them.
Back in St. Louis, the outreach center has brought an old ambulance to reach those who can't reach them. In this city, they say there is almost no heroin on the streets anymore. It is all fentanyl.
Right now I'm just giving out Narcan.
It took Miles 20 attempts to beat his own addiction. Delivering Narcan to users in the hope it will save them or someone else is his way of giving back and persuading others to find a better way out.
Using fentanyl is a really good way to turn your brain off for a little bit and not have to think about how hungry you are or how poor you are or how you haven't been able to change your clothes in a couple weeks. It's a really good way to turn that off. It turns everything else off too. The thing is, so many other folks have turned their backs to people who are using fentanyl, and that's when people need human connection the most.
I have hope. I believe in recovery. I don't believe addicts all die. I believe people recover, and I have hope. I thought that if I lost Eli, I wouldn't have hope anymore. And yet I still have hope. And that I would help anybody who needed help.
Illicit fentanyl is just the latest wave in the opioid crisis. In a country with 5% of the world's population, but using 85% of the world's opioids, and a seemingly ready supply to meet the demand. Greg Milam, Sky News.